One of the other quotes in this blog post that really to me stood out as an extraordinary result was you'd mentioned we'd estimate that we completed at least 5 years of work within a 2-year time frame, and that put you in this position to be nimble and to have a great future. Can you share a little bit more about like what was that work that was accelerated? Because to me, to fast forward a 5-year time horizon for your technology roadmap to 2+ years is crazy. Like, can you tell us a little more about what were some of those projects, the things that got zoomed up?
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of amazing what can happen when you really actually have an immovable timeline, right? And there's a deadline that cannot be shifted. I mean, in the case of our deal, we had a 2-year transition service agreement, TSA. This is common in every M&A transaction. They're usually quite unstrategic. They're basically, let's give ourselves a little buffer so we can like move the business over. And generally it's like a lift and shift, project. But then whoever's the acquiring company has to integrate the previous assets, and whoever's the other company has to figure out how to like detangle all dependencies from those assets. Um, and so, we had a 2-year TSA, and we had the option once to extend by 3 months. So that is like a hard timeline. And that really focuses effort in a very significant way. So our strategy on this was that we kind of like looked at our technology assets and realized we had these projects in place. We knew, for example, that we were running massive data center footprints. I mean, we're in a media delivery business. We're doing 4K encoding and distribution. We're running satellites all over the world. We have satellite distribution facilities, massive data centers, massive broadcast facilities, and these are a lot of these technologies are kind of we're behind the say behind the times on cloud. Let's putting it nicely. And so we knew we wanted to like move to a cloud distribution facility, but no one had done that before in broadcast. So no one had figured out how do you do 4K distribution in the cloud, for example. So this was kind of on the roadmap. We knew we wanted to get there, but we didn't have line of sight on how to get there exactly. And that's one example. We knew we were running, for example, we were running satellites out of Los Angeles, our movie lot here, which is where I'm headquartered. And running satellites in LA is a pretty bad idea. Actually, satellite distribution. There's a lot of earthquake risk. There's a lot of interference from LAX. So it's really not great to run huge antennas to have to deliver the Super Bowl out of LA, where you have very little room for failure. So we knew that we needed to have a different facility. So there were certain things that we kind of knew we needed to do. And then there's a lot of like really unsexy things that, I'm chief information security officer at Fox that, I really wanted to get like a zero trust architecture. That is really hard to do if you have 9 different email systems, right? And that was kind of the reality of what it was like to be in 21st Century Fox. I mean, we had huge brands that were all in this holding company. So Fox News, Star India, National Geographic, 20th Century Film. These are all, some of these companies are 100 years old. Some of them are newer, but all of them had their own infrastructure. And we were in this process, and we had actually made a lot of progress, but like of integrating and moving to best in class stuff, and we had essentially done the easy stuff. But there was just, I mean, a huge numbers of projects. I mean, that we were just managing for ERP and finance and all this stuff. It's really unsexy, but if you're trying to like do zero trust, or you're trying to have a comprehensive cybersecurity view, or you just want like efficiency in what you're delivering, it's just a lot of overhead. So that those were essentially all the things that were on the list, and we're like, all right, we're just like burning through this stuff, right? With this view to be a cloud native company, and a view to be largely SaaS driven, and to like kill all our data centers. And that, but we thought that was going to take 5 years, like optimistically, because so often those kinds of transformations just get interrupted by like, oh, well, suddenly the business wants to stand up something, and they need the tech team to spin up a new website and a new infrastructure, a new platform. And so those things always get deprioritized. And we essentially, through the way we structured the deal, made it so that they could not be deprioritized. Like we could not in 2 years have zero ERP system. We could not in 2 years like not have an email gateway solution for the company. So that's what essentially allowed us to like focus and keep the team just laser focused on those priorities for 2 years, so that we could actually run the business on the new infrastructure when the time came.
It makes me wonder if there's ways to, like, create those forcing functions when you sort of you don't have that hard deadline. Like, it just makes me wonder if there's a way to introduce those types of timelines, because I feel like oftentimes, like, timelines are so self-assigned, and so this was, like, such a forcing function to make that happen.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, the easiest thing to do is like you actually just say a contract's ending. I mean, that's essentially what this was. It was to say,
yeah.
actually, all this technology is going over there. They're going to provide a service back to us, and that service agreement's 2 years.
Mhm.
So you could do. I actually did something similar recently on another project where we had a technology in place. I'm like, I am over this technology, and every 6 months it's like, oh well, we haven't quite gotten. I'm like, this project, like I'm changing the term of the contract. I'm not signing another 3-year deal at renewal. We're signing a 1-year deal. You got 1 year to make it happen. So I think there is a way to kind of. I don't think you do it at the scale that we did it without some highly catalyzing event like in 2 years, if you do not figure this out, like we will not be able to distribute the Super Bowl. um, a very core business function for us. But I think on the edges you can do it.
I think this is a really good learning for all engineering leaders to how you heard your team to get something massive or critical accomplished in an effective manner. Because I experienced personally that by having a externally committed timeline that effectively boost the productivity of the team very obviously. I think people are smart that having arbitrary deadline that and versus having a real deadline that if you don't deliver, then there's going to be externally visible outcome. I think psychologically that makes a huge difference.
Jerry, quick aside here. It reminds me of when we were building the platform for our conference last year. So Melly, we built our own platform to host our event, host our community, and the deadline was the event. It was like, this needs to be live and it needs to be working. and
Yeah, it's announced. We're in the design, so we got to do it. Eventually, it happened, and the team just feel really proud. But I don't think that's going to happen if we don't have that forcing function.
Yeah, I think there is something about not having a backup plan that actually aligns incentives and aligns effort. It was just so galvanizing for the team too. I mean, again, in this case, it's like everyone got to work actually in the technologies they always wanted to work on, right? So the whole thing was very motivating because not it wasn't like, oh well, you have 2 years to like make this horrible thing not break again. Like, these were teams that were a lot of technology teams, like they were maintaining systems that really should have been end of life in some cases. And so I think some of this, the teams were so excited to be able to jettison all that and work on all the newest technologies. And what we did with Amazon for that was like, we were partnering with Amazon. It was the first time, they had ever work with a media company to really solve this distribution quality challenge at scale. And so I think that there is something galvanizing too, I think, or that helps when the to get to the goal basically is to push the teams to all work in the technologies they've always wanted to work in, and to shed them from a lot of the like the cruft that they had been wasting their time with.